Hello, everybody. Welcome to I guess, somewhat emergency podcast edition of Hawk Blogger Mornings. I'm Brian Emhauser. You can find me, everything that we do on YouTube, TikTok, Instagram at Hawk Blogger. You can also find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcast as well. If you want ad-free audio, patreon.com/Hawk Blogger. We'll get you that. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I've got a little bit of an odd setup because I'm not at Radio Row and some of my equipment's up there. So doing the best I can with what I've got. I'll double check in chat to make sure you guys can hear me okay and all is good. But this was blowing up enough that I felt like it was necessary to come on and talk to you guys a little bit about what we know, what we don't know, what's going to happen from here, and also just give you my perspective. And I'll be the first to say, I'm not a doctor. I'm not an expert. So, take my perspective for what it's worth. But I will tell you, I feel very differently about all of this than what seems to be the vast majority of Seahawks fans, and honestly, a lot of analysts out there. So let's get into it. First part of this that I think everybody probably knows if you're tuning into this right now is that Nick Emmanwori, the Seahawks do everything rookie, rolled his ankle in practice yesterday. And we know this because it was reported by the pool reporter who, let me pull up, I should have had this already ready, but this was reported by Kayler Kane, I think her name is. Anyway, I don't have it right in front of me, but specifically, the rookie safety injured his ankle defending a pass late in practice, walked off the field on his own shortly before 4 o'clock. Then adds, and this I think concerned a lot of people, several players and coaches went over to comfort him before he left. Mike McDonald said he had an ankle today. We brought him in to look at it, and we'll kind of go from here and figure out what are the next steps. So this set off, as you can imagine, a ton of concern among Seahawks fans. A lot of them were remembering the Cam Chancellor knee injury, the MCL sprain that happened just before the last time the Seahawks faced the Patriots in the Super Bowl, and was not ideal for a team that had a lot of other injuries. Sorry, I want to add one quick note here. Okay, so we know that. We also, since it was reported elsewhere that he is going to get imaging, which means they're going to take a look at the ankle. Beyond that, there was a video that one of our Patreon members, Carson JB, posted of Nick walking into the team hotel late last night. So here is that video that you guys can see where Nick is walking with a limp into the hotel. And this is where I also just know that I'm seeing this differently than a lot of people. So that's a noticeable limp. He's not walking comfortably, but that is the other thing that we know is that as part of that video, he was not using crutches. He was not wearing a walking boot. So those are things we know. Those are facts. Those are not for dispute. That's the reality. Now, I think there's some things we think we know, and I'm not as positive about. So I'm trying to be clear about what are facts, what are presumed to be facts, and then what's my analysis and what's my opinion. What we think we know is that he got the imaging done before he was walking into the hotel. That's what we think. I think that was reported. I don't know if that's been confirmed, but that would be important because let's say he got imaging done and there was something really serious there, like you would almost certainly have a different video of him with some sort of crutches, walking boot, or who knows, something additional to protect the ankle. If the imaging hasn't been done yet, you'd still expect them potentially to be, immobilizing it to protect it as much as possible. But again, I'm not a doctor, so take that for what it's worth. The other thing is it looks like the right ankle, and I don't know that that's been confirmed. I think I've seen that reported a couple places. But even when he was walking, it looked like it was the right ankle that he was not putting all his weight on comfortably. And that is the same ankle that he did injure against San Francisco in week 1. I just went back and watched the video of that injury again to confirm it was his right ankle back then. And it was. So if this is right ankle again, it would be the same ankle. We also got a tweet from David Chow, who is known as Pro Football Doc on Twitter. And he was really the first Twitter doc out there. He actually worked in the NFL as a team doctor. And, he has his own history, some of it not great, but he, in my experience, has been one of the only Twitter doctors that I think I pay attention to. There are others out there that rhyme with, Morse code, that use all caps and consistently are wrong about what they put out there and are already jumping on this to try to inflame the situation. Do not listen to that guy. Do not listen to him. There's a lot of other Twitter docs that are out there just for engagement. It's baloney. So do not pay attention to them. David Chow quote tweeted the video of Nick walking into the hotel. He says this is likely a right inversion ankle sprain. That's why, again, right ankle. He said he would be out today, which today is Thursday, but the Super Bowl is 3 days away. So the implication there is this is not a absolutely going to miss it, certainly going to be out. It is not. That looks like a high ankle sprain. That looks like, some of the most serious possibilities. And so that's what we think we know. We don't know that. We know that the David Chow said that. He doesn't know it, but he says it's likely an inversion sprain. So those are the things that we either know or we think we know. So then let's get into my thoughts on this. And this is where, you guys can take these things for what they're worth and either find them useful or ignore them completely. That's totally up to you. So, when I first heard, I was actually out dinner last night and did not see the news immediately. And when I heard, I was like, God dang it. And my reaction, honestly, when I read the report was not, oh my God, this is a disaster. It was, oh my God, people are losing their minds. And everyone has a right to feel however they want to feel. So it's just not the way I reacted. When I read the report, he walked off the field. I think everyone reacted to the fact that he was being comforted and by other players, and that must mean it's really serious. And I just didn't feel that way. I thought that we had a lot left to learn about what was going on, and we'd wait and see. And then from there, I mean, I won't get too far into the Cam Chancellor situation, but I'll just quickly say this. The Cam Chancellor situation is interesting because, one, Cam Chancellor had an MCL sprain, which is like a knee is different than an ankle. And that's a pretty significant injury and not something you'd normally be able to play a few days later. So that was a big deal. Also, Cam Chancellor's knee injury is not why the Seahawks lost that Super Bowl. So, like, even if it was the same situation, that wasn't the reason that they lost that game. There are a bunch of other guys that got injured in that game, Jeremy Lane, Cliff Averill, and so forth. And then we know all the play that happened at the end of the game. So while that was a traumatic moment, that particular Super Bowl, it also was not the deciding factor. So I don't know why that sends people into like this super tizzy. I also was seeing people react to the fact, oh my God, why does Mike Macdonald do these padded practices, which he said they were going to do at the press conference yesterday morning? Why aren't they just taking it easy or keeping these guys in bubble wrap? And I'll just tell you all, like, you don't get a defense like the Seahawks have. You don't get a physical running game like the Seahawks have without practicing the way the Seahawks practice. Like, the two things are inextricably linked. So if you want a team and a defense that is as ferocious as this is, you also have to build some calluses through physical practices. And any NFL coach would tell you the same thing. So the Seahawks are not going to, the week before the biggest game of the season, change the way that they approach preparation. They're just not going to do that. And they did do a partially padded practice, so it wasn't the full practice that was done that way. But I've had moments, and I'll admit, like where it's been raining outside during the week in Seattle, and Mike McDonald, like everybody in the press room is like, oh, they're going to practice inside. Partially not just because of injury concern, but the forecast for the game day in a few days is sun or no rain at all. So there's not really a benefit necessarily to being out there. Mike's got them out there because he believes in the words that he says, that he wants this team to play in a fashion that nobody else wants to play in. And that means putting them in situations that are uncomfortable. So this is a core part of who Mike McDonald is and the way he gets his team ready to play. So I find that honestly pretty hypocritical and misguided for people to criticize Mike McDonald for how he's conducting these practices. The other thing that I was seeing, which is obviously ridiculous, is, oh, the electrical substation got him again. Now the Seahawks are getting affected. They're not practicing at the 49ers practice facility. They're practicing at San Jose State. They're nowhere near the electrical substation. And I won't go farther into that, but there's no evidence to prove that that has anything to do with any of the injuries the 49ers have been experiencing. Anyway, that's also ridiculous. So that's another piece. And then when I woke up this morning and I saw the video of Nick walking into the hotel, I was like, oh, this is really good news. Like, no crutches, no boot. And his limp was not great, but it wasn't like, oh my God, he can't put any weight on that thing. So I then see the reactions to it, and people are like, oh my God, he can't, he's never going to play. There's no way, we're screwed. I'm like, what are we talking about here? Like, I don't see that. Obviously, Dr. Chow does not see that. And I'll say that part of what I have that informs my opinion, and this is an opinion, and it's not a professional medical opinion. I will continue to stress that. But I've watched guys in the locker room the last 2 years after games during the practice week. And I've seen guys, I'll tell you this, like, I thought there was no way that Josh Jones was going to be able to play in week 18 against the 49ers. When I saw him after the game in the post-game locker room in Carolina, he could barely walk across the room to the shower. Like, he was hunched over. He was really struggling. And he played. Like, he started and played that whole game and like injured himself again in the game and still came back and played that game. He was so injured that he then didn't practice after that game for multiple weeks. So like I've seen guys in walking boots on a Monday that then play on a Sunday. Now, we don't report those things. We're not allowed to report those things. But this is part of what informs my opinion about the situation, because like what I saw from Nick in that video was nowhere near the worst case that I've seen from players who have then ultimately played. I will also admit I've seen some players that I thought looked like they were getting around okay that didn't play. So this is not 100%. This is not like a certainty. Again, I'll just keep caveating that. But based on what I've seen, there was nothing in that video that made me think, oh man, no way. I fully expected, based off of how people were reacting, that he might be in a boot. And even if he was in a boot, I wasn't going to be sure that he wasn't going to play, or on a crutch. All those things, for neither of those things to be in place, to me, that's a significantly positive sign that he might be able to play. Now, when you also got the doctor, David Chow, saying it's an inversion sprain, looking that up, that is essentially a rolled ankle. Like, that is like the basketball sprain kind of sprain. And Nick's 21 years old. There's 3 days until this game. I've seen him in a game. What game was this? Was it the Rams game or the 49ers game? This was like one of the most recent games. During the game, he rolled his ankle and was like significantly limping, did not come out of the game, ended up playing through it. I'm just telling you, this is a 21-year-old kid who's a phenomenal athlete. And give him a couple of days. Also, we will talk to Mike Macdonald this morning in a couple of hours. We will see if Nick shows up at the press availability. My guess is he won't. He'll probably be out getting treatment. People will use that as an opportunity to say, oh my God, he's like never going to play. But they're going to be treating him the way they treated Sam Darnold before the 49ers game. They're going to treat him around the clock. And they'll see, how well they can get him ready to play. So those were some of the initial reactions there. And then this thing, I'll just also say like, oh, why does this keep happening on the bye week for the Seahawks? I mean, I don't know, guys. Like, I think that's overplayed as well. The Seahawks are also undefeated post bye week with Mike Macdonald. They've never lost a game after a bye week with Mike Macdonald. So whatever they're doing, even if it means that someone's getting injured, they're winning football games. So like all of this stuff feels like my fan diagnosis is that the fan base is in a fragile state right now. Holy moly. Like for this news to send people off the edge the way it has surprised me, to be honest, because the Seahawks are a better team than the Patriots. They might not win, but that doesn't change my opinion or the opinion I think anybody that's watched these teams and looked at these rosters. The Seahawks are a better team. The line, by the way, has not moved an inch since this news came out. And I have some opinions about why that's the case. But the Seahawks have endured injuries all year long, including to Nick Emmanwori, and done okay. In fact, they haven't lost a game when Nick Emmanwori didn't play. They were 3-0 this year in games that Nick Emmanwori didn't play. Beyond that, I'm seeing all these people, and this is the thing, one of the other things that drives me a little bit crazy, to be honest. It's like, oh my God, he's such a key piece. Like, we do this specific nickel personnel that nobody else can do, and we can only do with him. It is true that Nick Emmanwori is a unicorn, like one of one kind of player that allows you to do some unique things. It is also true that your chances of winning are better with Nick Emmanwori than without. So I'm not going to debate that part of it. But part of what makes Nick Emmanwori and that particular personnel grouping so valuable is to go against a Sean McVay offense or a Kyle Shanahan offense, who like to get you an extra linebacker out on the field in order to exploit them with, if you're the Rams, get Puka Nacua lined up against those guys and do it. If you're the 49ers, Christian McCaffrey, get him isolated on, or George Kittle, like who's, an outstanding all-pro level tight end. The Patriots, as good as they are, they don't have a Puka Nacua. And I like Hunter Henry. He is not George Kittle. So this is not a particular matchup where I feel like the Nick Emmanwori nickel defense is absolutely critical to the Seahawks' success. I think it's useful. It's another tool in the toolbox for Mike Macdonald, but this is not the linchpin for how they're going to play defense against this team. Beyond that, people seem to forget the Seahawks have not just one, but two of the top 5 nickel cornerbacks in the entire NFL. Devin Witherspoon was considered by many the best nickel or one of the best nickels before this season. You also have in a situation already where Josh Jobe and Tariq Woolen have been rotating because they're both so good that you don't want to leave one on the sideline. So if you get in a situation, worst case scenario, that Nick Emmanwori cannot play, then Devin Witherspoon will play nickel if they want him to do that. Tariq Woolen and Josh Jobe can play outside, and you're fine with those 3 corners. You also have the ability to have Julian Love play the big nickel situation. He has that capability, and you can slide Ty Okada in next to Kobe Bryant, who, by the way, has been excellent this year. If you have to play Ty Okada, is anybody upset about him coming onto the field? I hope not, because he's been one of the better players when he's been on the field. So, and like another thing that I think is less likely, or 2 other things that are less likely, but also okay, let's say the Seahawks do decide to play some 3 linebacker situations where Tyrese Knight has to come on the field. Tyrese Knight has been excellent this year. That's not the worst case scenario. That's not like a terrible thing to have happen. And then another lineup option that they could do, the Seahawks could choose to play 5 linemen. They could go Jaron Reed, Byron Murphy, Leonard Williams, and have DeMarcus Lawrence and Uchenna Nwosu. They could go 5 to match some of the big personnel and still have Drake Thomas and Ernest Jones and their corners behind him. They have a lot of options because they have an amazingly good and deep roster on that side. I don't think this swings the game. Do I think that it would be an unfortunate thing? Do I think it lowers their chances? Yes, I do. Do I think it is like a massive thing? No, I don't. I just don't. And this is not coping. This is like my honest reaction when I had to this news and why I wanted to come on here, because I just see this massively differently than I think a lot of Seahawks fans do. So I think those were the big things that I wanted to at least share in my initial reaction to this. We're going to learn more later today and into tomorrow. We'll find final injury designations tomorrow. I don't know what they will be. We'll learn a little bit today. But in summary, we've got a situation where we have a lot more we don't know than what that we do. What we do know should not be that alarming, in my opinion. We already have what clearly is not the worst case scenario for this injury. If it was the worst case scenario, he would be having significantly more support for that ankle, a boot for sure, crutches potentially, if this was the worst case scenario for the ankle. We also don't know what the imaging revealed. We don't know like how it's going to respond. It could go the other way. He could wake up this morning and it's significantly swollen, and they find like this is not responding. Like all those, like any of those possibilities are out there. There's a lot we just don't know. And then as far as the implications for this game, I just don't think this is the worst case scenario. I'm not going to say what I think would be in terms of who being out, because I don't feel like jinxing it any more than anybody else. But I think the Seahawks can endure this. And you're going to see analysts who are like, oh, this is the guy that's made the Seahawks. They don't know what, they haven't watched this team. They haven't watched this team. They have not gone deep on this team all year. They don't know that the Seahawks won games when both Devin Witherspoon and Nick Emmanwori weren't playing. They won games when Julian Love and Nick Emmanwori and Devin Witherspoon weren't playing. Like they've been great against so many teams while there's been injuries. And to be like repeat part of what I think the key is to this game, it's going to be about the pass rush. It's going to be about Leonard Williams and Derek Hall and Boye Mafe and Uchenna Nwosu and DeMarcus Lawrence and Byron Murphy, how they either take advantage of that Patriots offensive line or not. And if they do, you could have all sorts of corners out there. Drake May is going to have a real hard time succeeding if he's under the kind of pressure that the Seahawks hope that he is under in this game. So anyway, yes, not the best news, not the worst news. That's kind of my take on this. I see there's 6 super chats, so let me put this up there. Richie Brash has become a member. Welcome back, Richie. Sorry, he's been a member for 21 months. Says, how dare you try to calm me down, Brian? What do you think I pay $10 a month for? I pay for nonsensical panic and overreaction. Thank you. I needed this. Well, wrong place for that, Richie. Sam Coat Andre says, I think the days of our defense falling apart after one injury are over, thanks to Mike. Yeah, I hope so, at least this year. The Rude says, has gifted a Hawk Blogger membership. Thank you for that. Kobe Bryant just said he's good. Where's that? Actually, could you share this? Joey Walker's member from 21 says, Kobe just quoted, yeah, he's good. Regular Nick. Well, that's good to see. Let me see if I can pull that up real quick while I've got you guys on here. And verify what others are already saying. Kobe Bryant, where is that? Is this on Instagram or on Twitter? Let me know, guys. And I'll go to live. On Brock and Salk. We said on 710. Okay. Yeah. So Kobe Bryant on Brock and Salk saying he's good. That's like, anyway, let's all take a breath and try to enjoy this, folks. This is awesome where we are. This is awesome where the team is. This team is ready for anybody in any situation. I will be back with you. I'm going to be going over to the facility to do some interviews, and then I'll be heading back to Radio Row to do some more Hawk Blogger Mornings. Then we'll have Real Hawk Talk tonight at 5 with the OG crew, Evan Hill, Nathan Ernst, Jeff Simmons. And we'll do that as long as my voice holds out. Hopefully it will. But appreciate all you guys for supporting, and we'll see you soon. Take care.